Hello, everybody, and welcome to Press YYZ episode 26. That means we've been doing this for half of a year, 6 whole months. Can you guys believe it? I can't believe it. We are recording this live. I know, right? Hard to believe. We are recording this live on twitch.tv/PressYYZ on July 22nd, 2020. We do this every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's Toronto time. And don't forget, if you have Amazon Prime, you have Twitch Prime. We are affiliate. You can help us out. It's great. I'm your host today, AJ Fraser, joined by Alex Kozina.
Hey. I thought we would never say if you have Amazon Prime, you have Twitch Prime, but we just said it, and it brought a smile to my face.
We also said it last week.
Money coming in.
We are also joined by Mitch George.
These last 6 months, it felt like 3.5 years.
And Nathan McInerney.
Is this where I'm supposed to say something?
Yeah, something witty.
Yeah.
Something witty. Girthy.
Girthy. Yeah, perfect. Girthy. Today, baby boy Ballant won't be joining us because he's got to move over. Like some friggin' loser. Like, who needs to?
It's during a pandemic.
I know.
He's going through a Halo coma right now in preparation for the Microsoft showcase tomorrow.
He's got.
I heard he was binging Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, you know what? I bet he's a secret closeted Kingdom Hearts fan. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
So in his stead, it's been long rumored that I have a friend in the game industry. And
you only talk about it like every week.
Every other week. Let's be real here.
All right,
okay?
Sorry.
All right, well. And we are proud to announce that we have our first guest on the podcast, and he is that guy. My personal friend, Ben Wander.
Hey. Just to be clear, I think friend is a bit strong. Like, we can work up to that if you want to, but...
I mean, I did kind of stand up with you at your wedding.
Yeah, okay, fine. I guess that counts. If you stood, you're a friend.
I wasn't your best man, but I stood up there. All right?
There you go. To be fair, we didn't have a best man or a lady, so it counted. You're one of 5. There you go. You've outed me. We're actually friends. Fine. Okay.
Got him.
He grows on you like some sort of leech, doesn't he?
I was trying to not make that public, I guess I have to
protect your image, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you guys drinking tonight? Anybody
Straight
drinking
vodka?
H2O.
No, it's 100% water.
Just water?
Oh man, I was told I had to bring a beer.
For now,
Yeah,
I got beer in the fridge.
Yeah.
This is 86 Nick. It's from the brewery across the street from me called Call to Arms, which is the best brewery that I've been to in the world. I live in Denver, Colorado, though, so that might be a little bit far away from you guys. Nick is the manager there who's been there for like 5 years or something, and he's about to leave. And so they made a big middle finger to him to wish him well in everything that he's doing. So I drink to you, 86 Nick, and this is a mochi-inspired rice lager. Because
mochi.
I love mochi. Yeah, so there you go.
Very interesting.
Pouring one out for Nick leaving at the end of the month.
Wow. So were you in the chat before the show? You mentioned that you had to run across the street and grab a beer. You were not kidding.
No. I went across the street and got a beer. Yeah.
Fair enough. Tonight, I've actually got a hard apple cider with strawberries from a little place called Downey's Farm. Yeah, it's actually super good. I mentioned last week that the weekend prior I went strawberry picking, and they were selling these, and it's kind of addictive. It's a really good cider. I like it.
So we talk about video games on this show, right?
Do we?
I thought we did.
From time to time.
I thought we reviewed beverages.
Video games are so tiring, guys.
On this show. I don't know about the rest of you.
Okay. Shit. Sorry, I get confused.
Man, I gotta say, can I just say something right off the bat? We've had some awkward, confusing openings to this show in the past. I feel like this might be one of the messiest.
Honestly, I think you guys are just nervous to be around my personal friend here.
Are we?
So,
It's you more than anybody, I think.
well, you guys,
Because I
you
feel
know
like
what?
you're still trying to prove yourself to him in some way. I don't get it. Like,
I-
I know we're not a legitimate podcast, but
You're not wrong there, but also I've had one of these ciders prior to the show, so that could have something to do with it.
that would do it.
Anyway, let's get to the show proper. What the hell have you guys been playing? Anybody can go first. Everybody talk at once. It's fine.
Ghost of Tsushima.
How is it? Tell me about it.
I can't stop playing it. It is so. It is the game I needed right now. I've historically not been into the open world checklist, clear every question mark off the map. But after like the experiences I've had this year with Final Fantasy VII Remake and with The Last of Us Part 2 being very narrative heavy, very linear, I feel like this is just kind of the escape I needed from that, if that makes sense. Like I feel like it's going to be more of a slow burn for me going through and clearing all of these things on the map and learning more about this world. And I finished a side quest, and it's not to say the writing in this game is anything to snuff at. I finished a side quest the other day and I audibly gasped at the outcome because it was not at all what I expected. And I'm not going to say anything here, but if anyone wants to talk about Ghost of Tsushima, which I still cannot pronounce, side quests offline, feel free to reach out to me. But it's a hell of a good time. Combat feels almost like Batman, the Arkham games, which is really great.
I've heard this game described as like Japanese Batman.
It is the Batman Ninja game I never knew I needed.
Oh,
And I cannot wait. Like, so I spent a couple of days not at home and I didn't take the PlayStation with me. And the entire time I was away, one, I was playing another game for review, which I'll probably talk about next week, but on the Switch, all I could do was think about Ghost of Tsushima. I needed to get back to it. I need it so bad. It's so good.
I've listened to a lot of preview coverage for this game over the past week or so. This is a bit of a random question, but the reason why I'm asking it is because I don't think that I've heard it from any of the previews that I've heard of this game. Are there any supernatural elements in this game at all?
I've encountered yet. Granted, I've only finished so the game, I think, just based on the map, is divided up into 3 acts. I've only finished the main story quest for the first act, and then I've just been running around the map clearing as much as I can. But to answer everyone's question, I know everyone wants to know, yes, you can pet the fox in the game.
Hell yeah.
Gotta be able to pet the fox.
That sounds cool. This seems like the kind of game that is, like, by and large, a fairly grounded experience, but tucked away within a little corner, you would find something vaguely supernatural or something a little bit unsettling. But,
again, nothing. I've been unsettled, but that's more so a factor of the writing than.
Okay.
Again, that one side quest just sticks with me. But yeah, nothing supernatural that I've run into thus far. But if I do, I'll be sure to let you know, Cozy.
Is it supposed to be historical? Like, is it actually in Japan?
It's
in like
Japan. As far as I can tell, yeah, it's as historically accurate as they could have it be in Tsushima, Japan. It's very. I mean, there are things that are not quite as authentic. Like you do have some crazy like ghost tools, as they call them, or ghost, that are more like smoke bombs and kunai and things like that a traditional samurai might not use. But that's also woven into the narrative, which I really appreciate. Good stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, I didn't get a chance to talk about it last week, but Mitch, you were able to get me a code for a game called Ooblets.
I did get you a code. Game provided by Pop Agenda. So
by game provided by Ooblets is what I'd prefer to say.
Tell me about the oobs. I need to know about the oobs.
So in the last week, I have not put any more time into it. I've put more time into Minecraft. What I've talked way too much about Minecraft at this point. But yeah, Ooblets. It's like I've heard it described, and I actually agree. It's like Stardew Valley meets Pokemon in a way, where you're kind of like growing items to kind of attract the ooblets and catch them and make them, I don't know, part of your team. And there's battles, but they're dance battles, and you make your ooblets dance battle each other, but with playing cards is how you do your moves.
Wait, what?
It's a whole thing, and it's early access right now. Or what is it? What do they call it? Game preview on Xbox.
Game preview on Xbox, yeah, and early access on the Epic Game Store.
Yeah, and it's a little unbalanced at the moment in the sense that all the you just stomp all over your enemies, pun intended, because you're doing dance battles and stuff. But there's a bit of a story and everything. You're trying to collect all the ooblets on this island and stuff, and you've got basically the farm from Stardew Valley. It's weird.
I'm intrigued by this game, but man, it feels like this game has been in development for 17 decades. Like it feels like this game won't come out, but I'd be interested in checking it out when it finally fully releases.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I think I don't want to pick up until my girlfriend is sitting beside me, and then I just hand her the controller and see what she does with it. Because she's not into games necessarily, but she's into the cute stuff.
Does she like Animal Crossing?
She hasn't personally played the newest Animal Crossing, but she's played Animal Crossings in the past. And yeah, it's one of those games.
You described this game as Pokemon with dance battles and a card battling system mechanic.
Yeah.
Those are literally three of my favorite things. Yeah. So I'm 100% sold on this. I have to give it a shot at some point.
Absolutely. You should have taken one of the codes while you had the chance.
I don't have a PC at this point. I have a 8-year-old laptop that barely runs Discord.
Play it on Xbox One.
Then I'd also have to own an Xbox One.
Oh, why did I think you had one?
I don't know, but it was a funny joke.
You tried. That's for sure. What else you guys been playing?
I've been talking a lot, so ask somebody else.
How about you, Cozy?
I mean, I've been playing a lot of God of War 2018's post game. On previous episodes of the show, I talked about how I was a little bit disappointed by how long God of War 2018 was. I thought that its length resulted in certain moments not hitting as they should have, and ultimately I came away being like, I feel like the game could have been 5 to 10 hours shorter and it wouldn't have been any lesser of an experience. Nevertheless, I am having a lot of fun like completing all the various side quests that are left in God of War's world, finding all the collectibles and whatnot, and thankfully seem like it feels to me like I'm kind of shortly going to be reaching the end goal in sight to all the various side quests in the game. It doesn't feel like I'm going to be going on much longer, which is really, really good. And while I'm not ready just yet to say God of War 2018 is one of my favorite games of all time, I will say that historically, some of my favorite games of all time tend to be games that I found great enjoyment with after I completed them, either through multiple playthroughs or through side quests and the like. So who knows? This could completely turn the game around for me when I finally get through with that stuff. In addition to God of War 2018, I also played a little game on some of my streams by the name of The Ottoman Empire. So this is an indie game that was developed by a little developer in the UK called Tryhard Interactive. Full disclosure, we received a code from Tryhard Interactive to check out this game. It's basically a third-person cooperative shooter that's available for the Nintendo Switch and PC at the moment, in which you control various otters in a futuristic empire that must basically defeat robots and complete objectives within a certain allotted amount of time within these small little arenas.
It looks like Splatoon.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking by looking at this.
Splatoon is like 100% an influence on this game. I would say more so in terms of aesthetic than in terms of the actual gameplay, with the exception of what you just witnessed right here, which is that basically you can dip into the water to kind of recharge your ammunition for your weaponry.
Does the jetpack feel better than the jetpacks in Anthem?
I have not played Anthem. I'm going to go on a limb here and say that I mean, a lot of people in the preview cycle for Anthem were like, hey, flying in Anthem feels great. So I feel like Anthem might be better, actually, but I don't know with certainty.
It's okay, Cozy. It was a joke.
Oh, so wait, were the jetpacks in Anthem really bad?
I have no idea. It was more so a joke of trying to just talk about Anthem because nobody's talking about Anthem.
That's a good point. Here's what I'm going to say. I think this game, could be really compelling in the future after some certain updates. I think that there's clearly a road ahead for the developers of this game to continue to improve upon what they've made right here. As it stands right now, I think that the game is a little bit rough around the edges. So I'm excited to see how this game continues to improve and evolve in the future. Especially considering that one of the developers of the game, originally the way that I heard about this game is one of the developers reached out to me on the Discord server for gamers, which is the YouTube channel I write for. So it's really cool that I have development friends within that community I'm part of, and that they sought to reach me out. But like I said, I think that there is a road ahead for this game, and I'm interested in seeing if it manages to take full advantage of that road.
See, AJ, you're not the only person with game dev friends. So there. Cozy didn't say it, so I did.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, we already established that friend is a loose term, but you know what I mean.
Of course. Nathan, we haven't heard a lot from you. What have you been up to?
I've been super quiet because two of the games I've been playing, one I got today and one I got a few days ago, I can't talk about yet. One of them comes out tomorrow morning, and the review will go live in the wee hours of the morning. And I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to talking about it next week on the podcast. So, fingers crossed. If you guys check out my Twitter, I'll post the review. So please check it out. I think it's a well-written review. But take a peek and let me know your thoughts. I did spend a bit of time this week with Watch Dogs 2 on PC from the Ubisoft event. From watching it. I platinumed it on PS4, but I was like, I missed Watch Dogs. And then I started playing it. I'm like, oh, I really miss Watch Dogs 2. This is a good game.
How excited are you then for Legion?
I'm going to say I'm more excited for Watch Dogs 2 than I am Assassin's Creed.
You mean Watch Dogs Legion?
Or Watch Dogs Legion than Assassin's Creed, yeah.
Honestly, I think I'm in the same boat. I like the mechanic they're building of you can literally play as anybody in the game. I think it's super ambitious. Like, in terms of the technical aspect of it, that I want to see if they can hit it.
I'm just worried about, I really like the main character in Watch Dogs 2, and having a situation where we're switching between characters. I don't know how that's going to feel. Like, am I going to have that same attachment like I had with Marcus?
Yeah, that's sort of something that I've kind of noticed, like narratively, like two things can happen. You either get attached to the one main character you play as, like, for example, playing Ellie in The Last of Us, or your own created character that you make at the start of the game. And so when you're not creating these characters, like I can imagine it being like you get attached to your team in like XCOM or something like that, where they could die at any point and whatever. But I don't know. Yeah, there's definitely a weird disconnect there that I find.
So I'm curious to see how that turns out. I still think Watch Dogs could be delayed one more time. We'll see. If I were Ubisoft, I'd save it to the spring and not release it a month away from Assassin's Creed. That seems too close together. And it's days away from Cyberpunk, right?
Assassin's Creed is 2 days before Cyberpunk.
Oh no, okay.
Watch Dogs Legion is Halloween.
Okay, sorry, it's a little bit before.
I think it's either the 30th or the 31st. I think it's the 31st.
Then I played some Animal Crossing, which we don't have to get into detail of, but I'm closing on 600 hours of Animal Crossing.
Christ.
And then we should watch Hamilton do a Hamilton spoiler cast because I've seen it twice.
I watched it 3 times. Let's do it.
Go ahead.
We very well might
do it.
Are we?
If you want. I know, Cozy, you weren't interested in watching it after your parents watched it or started it without you, but we'd be happy to have you. Nathan, you mentioned games you cannot talk about for review. I actually finished a review and it's up, and I can talk about the fact that I've played a lot of, I don't know if you, I guess we'd call it hashtag fun time.
That's what I would gather by it.
But I'm assuming that was more for Twitter than anything else, but it's actually a really fun twin stick shooter. It's basically
Geometry Wars. I was going to say it looks like Geometry Wars.
It is Geometry Wars mixed with Tron Light Cycles is the best way to describe it.
Cool.
So there's like a color shifting mechanic that you can control with the 4 face buttons. And if the color of your trail matches the color of the enemy, they get blown up and you earn even more points. It was the kind of game I needed right now between some of these bigger AAA experiences. It was a lot of fun. It was hard to pull myself away from it to play Ghost of Tsushima, to be honest. And actually, there was a moment where I booted up the PS4 to play some more Iron Man VR because I really want to finish that still. But Fun Time was right there. And I played that instead. And y'all know how big of a Marvel fanboy I am. The fact that I wanted to play that over jumping into more Iron Man VR definitely says something about the game.
So you're saying you had a fun time?
I had a hashtag fun time.
Good job. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Ben, we have not heard a lot from you yet. And I understand you're new here, but you can speak up whenever you want. You can interrupt whenever you want. There's no boundaries for you.
For the record,
I don't know how much I have to be talking over people. You see, it just happened now. Oh my! The first time I've talked in like 10 minutes, and I'm already talking over people. This is going to sound terrible on audio. What am I doing?
Don't worry, we are all in the same boat. We have the same problems all the time. What have you been playing aside from the game that you're making?
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of the game that I'm making. That's the number one. In fact, if I want to talk about the game I've been playing the most, it's Airborne Kingdom. But
go for it.
Sure, but if you want to talk about it now, talk about it now, by all means.
No, I mean the biggest game I've been playing outside of that is I think like probably because of quarantine, a game that so many people I know have randomly picked up in the last couple months, and that's Sea of Thieves. And it's this amazing co-op experience with just silly wacky pirates, and there's no progression, there's no gating, you can do just everything you want at once. And I know it came out like 3 years ago or something and had really like not enough content. I mean, people were giving it grief from all over the place because it didn't have enough to do. They have stuck with that thing because there is way too much in that game. It's brimming with everything to do with all these like amazingly wonderful kind of experiences that just come out of nothing. Like a lot of it comes out of it being multiplayer. You're playing with your friends. It's called Sea of Thieves, so you're trying to steal from other people while trying to do your own quests and things. And it just leads to all these emergent experiences that I haven't had with really much else recently. And it helps because it's like a chat room with friends. And it's what we've called like the most dad game, in that the shooting is terrible in it. The sword play is awful. But what that means is everybody has like the same amount of crappy controls. And so you're just hacking at people like this. And when you die, it never really feels your fault or that they really did anything well. But it's okay because you come back in like 30 seconds. And if your ship's still there, you're like right around there. You can jump out of your boat and it's fine because you just hail a mermaid and then you're back on your ship. It's like the lowest amount of stress that's possible at all. And so I don't know, it's like, and you can play as much as you want or as little as you want, and you're in the exact same place. Like you might have a cooler scarf or a hook or peg leg or something, but nobody's left behind. So I've been playing with like 3 different groups, and it's amazing. It's so much fun. I put in, even in the last like 2 weeks or 3 weeks that I've been playing it, I've put in like 100 hours, which is a lot for me. I don't play games as much anymore that aren't my own game. So it's been quite a blast. I've had a good time.
Amazing.
Sounds like there's a sea of content to enjoy.
Well, I originally played Sea of Thieves when it first came out. And yeah, there was like not a lot of content there, but like Ben, our friend Taylor, and I played, a good handful of hours of that at the start, and it's just him and I on a boat, and we're just sailing the open seas, just having a good chat, and then suddenly off in the distance, oh shit, is that a boat? Oh god, it's another boat. Oh fuck, they're gonna steal our shit. Fuck. What are we gonna do? Are we gonna fight them, or what are we gonna? It's so many emergent moments like that just happen organically, right? And you like every island in that game is like instanced in a way that you won't lose somebody if you're right on their tail necessarily, but if they get far enough away from you, they'll just disappear completely. But we definitely had a good amount, enough fun in that I'm glad they stuck around and continued supporting it for as long as they have, and I'm glad to hear that there's it's almost like a No Man's Sky scenario where No Man's Sky came out to a lot of backlash, where Sea of Thieves kind of came out to not a lot of I don't know.
You can call it backlash. I think you could call it backlash.
I don't think Sea of Thieves had backlash, like not the way No Man's Sky did.
I mean, there was a lot of pedigree behind it with the fact that it came from Rare. People expected it to be this game that
disappointment, but there wasn't backlash.
I would say the same of No Man's Sky, though, right?
There was heavy backlash.
A lot.
Okay.
There was backlash for No Man's Sky. I would almost say Sea of Thieves came out like a wet fart and just went away.
Yeah,
it's a good analogy.
Well, yeah, if you haven't played it, it's wonderful. I mean, like I'm having a really, really great time with it. And it's the perfect game to like catch up with people during COVID. I feel like I'm hanging out with more people than I normally do because I'm like an indoor cat a lot of the time. So when when everybody's stuck inside, great, we just play games together. This is what I want to do. I'm in my chair, we're playing a game. This is great.
Yeah, I feel like I've had a similar experience with that with our co-host who has forsaken us for the night, in that we've got a group together and we've been playing a lot of Predator Hunting Grounds in the same sort of vein of let's get a group of 5 guys together, hop into Discord, just hang out, chat. One person mutes themselves, they hop out when they're the Predator, and we all freak out as soon as they show up, and it's great, ton of fun. But I think as someone who didn't play a lot of multiplayer games before quarantine, thank God for multiplayer games.
Seriously, yeah. No, my wife spends a bunch of time on the phone with her friends, and I don't know how she does it. And then I ask her what she's doing, and then come upstairs and play games with my friends as if it's any different. Like we're just hanging out and playing dress up. That's really all it is.
Yeah, but okay, but you have that added feature of dress up that you can play, that you can say you have with your friends, where she's just talking on the phone. So really, you're one-upping her there, I would say.
It's true. It's true. I often tell my wife that I'm one-upping her and just about everything.
I mean, you could also just tell her it's market research.
Yeah. Right.
You're still working. I'm sorry. It's coming home.
That's what I tell the tax man. So I feel like I should tell my wife the same thing.
Understandable.
Sure. Fair enough. Well, if nobody has anything else to say in regards to what they've been playing recently, how about we talk a little bit about the news?
Ooh, is there everything's good, right?
Yeah, all good news, right, Mitch? You put all good news in here.
What
There's
the
no
fuck,
bad news.
Ubisoft? What the actual fuck?
Okay.
Hey, remember, my mom's watching this one. You can't swear.
I'm sorry, Cozy's mom, but it was necessary for this one.
You sure?
I think so.
For the record, I couldn't even access the original article that you linked to in our run of show. I had to go to Forbes.com because apparently Bloomberg only allows you to view a certain number of their articles every month.
Oh, I hate that.
There are ways around it, but also they deserve it.
Also, support your favorite
support your local newsman. But in the meantime, Jason Schreier of Bloomberg has put together a scathing expose with a number of interviews of current and former Ubisoft employees talking about how poorly they've mismanaged the sexual assault and assault allegations that have come to light over the past couple of weeks. I know we talked about this as well last week. There aren't a lot of new tidbits here, but it is just more of a like. There was one occasion where Ubisoft sided with a victim. The company removed their boss, but that person was not forced out of the company, and they gave the woman a gift card, like it's some sort of recompense for what they allowed to happen. It, man, it just it boils my blood to see this kind of thing happening to anybody, and it sucks that it's um, happening within a developer that I think most of us feel has done a pretty good job of, at least as a public facing company, put on a pretty good face over the last few years. I mean, it's a low bar set by some of their competitors in Activision Blizzard or EA, but like, what the heck, Ubisoft?
Yeah, seriously. Actually, I want to turn this over to Ben for a moment. Ben, okay, so we haven't gotten into your game industry history so much, very much yet, but we will get there. But you did work for various EA companies. Is there anything you can speak to as to like the culture there and like how things were handled and how you handled certain issues that may have come up in this nature? It didn't mean to get so serious on your first time on this podcast.
No, totally.
And if we ever get to anything that you don't want to speak to or don't feel comfortable speaking to, please just let us know, and we'll immediately change the subject.
No, absolutely. I don't think I'm going to out anybody here. Like, I'm not going to mention any names or anything that haven't come out. First of all, in the AAA space, I didn't know of anything like this that happened. I know some of this stuff that's come out of the indie space, but in the AAA space, I worked at. I was an intern at EA Mobile way back in the day, but my longest stints were at BioWare in Edmonton and at Visceral Games in San Francisco. And but yeah, both of, or I guess all of those studios, nothing that I knew really came out of them in this sense. But I will say I really appreciate Jason Schreier's reporting. He's a great reporter. We Zach on our team kind of knows him a bit personally. He's interviewed a bunch of us for his upcoming book. So like he's a really good guy. And seeing these reports come out from him, especially, is really important. And at a time that we're in, you see a lot of stuff from Twitter. You see a lot of stuff just coming out of nowhere. And for some reason, people find that it's easier to doubt it when it comes through those channels. And so having this kind of reporter really dig in and say, no, actually, here are a bunch of stories corroborated by a lot of the people in the same companies. And again, like I can work at a AAA studio and probably not see a lot of this stuff, right? When I was working back there, I was a junior engineer and then a systems designer. So I don't know. I'm not part of like the executive high up leadership that might be the ones perpetuating this stuff, right? And kind of like the more power you get, the more easy it is to wield that power in terrible ways. So it's very possible that it was happening, and I didn't know it. I will say, in general, games have kind of skirted the line between college frat house and professional workspace. And depending on where you've worked and who you've worked with and kind of the culture of the studio itself there, it's somewhere in between that. And never kind of hits either side of that. I've never worked at like a very 100% professional game developer. And I don't think anybody in games wants to. That's why we're there. We want to have fun. But it can veer into the sort of frat boy, frat house type of thing. And I say frat boy specifically because until recently, it's been majority male employees at these companies. And part of the reason for that is because women feel awkward in these spaces. And so there's a lot of heavy drinking. There's a lot of like broism and stuff in there.
One example from Jason's reporting is that there were outings, like team events that were at strip clubs. And the women typically did not go to those because that's really friggin' awkward.
Because why would you? Exactly.
Why would you feel like you should? But they were routinely passed over in terms of promotions or upward momentum at these companies because if you weren't part of the boys club, then you were left out of the conversation, which just is not fair.
Yeah, and let me be clear. I'm not saying that the culture excuses any of this behavior. I know many people in the games industry, and myself included, who I can proudly say I will never be the subject of one of these exposés. And I was part of that culture. I was drinking with the boys club. I was doing all that stuff. So it's not that the culture makes the person do this stuff, it is on these people. This is really horrible behavior, and we should call out individuals because of it. But if changing the culture can welcome more people in, then I think we should look at doing something like that too.
And something else of note about what Ubisoft today, actually, they had an all hands call, and Yves Guillemot did mention that employee bonuses for the manager level and above will have some portion of that tied in the future to creating and promoting a positive and inclusive workplace. And I think that is a step in the right direction. How far they will go remains to be seen, but at least they're identifying these failures in their organization and hopefully going to be better because of it.
Absolutely. That being said, it looks like Ubisoft is trying to do a little something on the consumer facing front as well before we wrap up Ubisoft stuff.
Yeah, on the same call, questions were asked around their pricing scheme for next gen titles. Yves Guillemot did confirm that their games scheduled for holiday 2020 will remain at the $59.99 MSRP pricing in the US.
Also known as $100 in Canada.
Yeah, $1,000 almost.
$79.99 Canadian, I think,
Something
is
like
the.
Yeah.
Unlike their brethren over at 2K, who are jacking up the price for NBA 2K21.
Yeah.
But he only said that it would be the games for holiday, so they may be revisiting that in the future. We will have to wait and see. The way NBA sells on next gen will probably indicate if the industry is set for another price increase, which is doubly painful in Canada because we've had like 3 this generation due to the Canadian dollar. But it is what it is. Games are more expensive to make than they've ever been, and we'll have to wait and see what Ubisoft decides to do after 2020.
Fair enough. Yeah. I echo everything that Ben said. Shit needs to change at Ubisoft, and yeah, it's a sticky situation. No pun intended. That was unintentional. I apologize. Next thing on the news docket, Mitch, what is this about Microsoft and xCloud?
So this was announced last week, so it's a little old at this point, but we haven't had a chance to talk about it, so I wanted to bring it here.
Let's do it.
This coming from Tom Warren over at The Verge. Microsoft has announced that xCloud streaming will be free as part of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate come September. So as it stands today, xCloud is in beta, but with this, as many people predicted, they're just going to roll that service into Game Pass Ultimate, and I think that's an awesome consumer decision. I don't know what you guys think. Ben, have you had a chance to mess around with it at all?
Yeah, that was going to be my question. I did, but in a controlled setting. So when they showed it at E3, they had their sort of stands there with like the phones or whatever. And to their credit, those phones were on Wi-Fi. And according to them, talking to servers that were all the way up in like Northern California when the show's in LA. So apparently it works fine. It felt really good at the show, but I haven't actually played with it. But honestly, playing Forza on your phone on a streaming service and being able to do that is pretty cool. I know, AJ, you've messed a lot with Stadia, and I haven't had a chance to do that, but the fact that it's fast enough for me to react to an action game is, just as a game developer, mind-blowing. Like, I have no idea how they do that. That's insane to me.
Yeah, no, Stadia, when it comes to something like a driving game, feels fine. When it comes to your normal like 3D action game, feels fine. How it comes down to how the streaming services come down to something like multiplayer or whatnot, still kind of more research is needed to know whether or not there's going to be some sort of weird disadvantage you have due to the minuscule amount of latency. But I know with xCloud, oddly enough, I got into the xCloud beta before it was available in Canada. There's a weird glitch with my account where it thinks my account's American, which is fine. I got in there well beforehand, so I was playing from basically Toronto, the GTA, on US servers, and which were probably New York servers, I would assume. and it
Yeah,
was
I think the majority of Microsoft's Azure clusters in the Northeast. Yeah, so you're looking somewhere in that general area. They don't. I mean, for integrity purposes, they don't talk about specifically where their data centers are because that would be dumb. But yeah, it's somewhere in like New York State area.
Yeah, and for me, like I booted up Halo 5. I remember early on, or Master Chief Collection, one of the two, and it was basically flawless. And I was playing with a PS4 controller on my phone.
Sweet.
There was something there's some magic happening there, and I am super into it.
So I was a good boy and waited for the beta to come to Canada before signing up.
Listen, they sent me an email and I clicked it and it worked. Okay.
I got into the beta, and the difference between you and me is I got into the beta on iOS. So I've only had access to the Master Chief Collection. I've played it on my iPad, on my phone, with an Xbox controller. I borrowed one from a friend because I don't own an Xbox. It scares me. Like, I mean, as a software developer, just I can't fathom how they were able to make this work. It's like witchcraft. Because I remember the weekend I got into the beta, and this is how long ago it was. I was on a trip to Ottawa and was able to play Halo over hotel Wi-Fi, which we all know how bad hotel Wi-Fi is, even though we haven't used it in over 6 months. And
I gotta say, I've completely forgotten.
I was absolutely blown away. Like it didn't perform as well as it did when I was at home. You did get a lot of like artifact pop in and things like that. Is like the controller input stayed with as little latency as they could, but sometimes the graphics took a bit of a hit, or it had to load in a bunch of textures. But for a streaming solution on my phone on hotel Wi-Fi and to have it work and be playable, I don't know how they did it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
I've been, upfront in the past about how all this Xbox, xCloud, X whatever stuff is not really my forte.
xCloud, give it to you.
I think that the question right here, right now, that I can ask, and that does, involve my forte, is there any chance of this coming to the Switch?
They wanted to, right? Didn't they? They said recently that they said a long time ago that they wanted to, and then recently Phil Spencer said, "Nah, not really. Just kidding. Don't worry about it."
Yeah, there was something earlier this week from Phil Spencer being like, "Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen," but that could also just be a negotiation tactic. So it remains to be seen. The bigger question I want to ask you guys is, sorry, AJ, but does this being part of Game Pass basically put the final nail in Stadia's coffin?
It might. It just might. Honestly, like, yeah, I'm the sole proponent of Stadia on this podcast and in any friend circles that I am a part of. But, it's for me, it's mostly about the tech and the ability to play anywhere. So, like, as long as I am able to do that with the games I want, the biggest problem Stadia has right now is I want to play games, but they don't have the games I want to play right now. So if Xbox can do that with xCloud, whatever they're going to call it after it's done being experimental, then great. I'm all in on that, and I will still be all in on Stadia because I want to be able to, you got to diversify your assets just in case of the big collapse for the next pandemic. That's how that works, right? Economics
Not
101?
Really?
No? Okay, well, you guys are smarter than me.
So if Stadia switches up its formula, because I think part of what Stadia's problem was, and what everybody thought it was going to be, was the Netflix for gaming. If they go to some sort of like similar to Game Pass, but you can just access all the games and you pay your monthly subscription costs, would that bring people back? Would that turn this around?
Well, okay. One, yeah, it probably would bring people back. But two, I actually want to turn this over to you, Ben, because last year, when Stadia was first announced, in our private group chat with our real life friends here.
You keep mentioning that you have
real life friends.
Sorry, I should call it what it really.
Are you trying to convince people of something that's not really there? I don't know.
In our gangbang chat.
We're real life friends.
In our gangbang chat.
Josie's mother's listening to this. What do you say?
worry about it. It's okay. Shh.
I'm really glad my mom's on vacation, not listening this week.
No, I sent you a screenshot that I had pre-ordered the controllers and stuff like that, and I was all in. I was ready for it. I was all in on Stadia, on the service, and everything like that. I'm super pumped for it.
Yeah.
You kind of had I know on a previous episode I did read the quote that you had here, but I didn't.
Oh, geez, I got to be careful what I say. Okay.
Yeah, no, it was very good. You were worried about streaming services in general because specifically, like, you equated it to Spotify and how, okay, so every stream on Spotify is, you only get a like not even a cent for every stream or whatever, but your concern was, how are the developers getting paid when it comes to those streaming services? I can go back.
Well, it's going to be one of two tracks, right? So there's the Spotify way where indie developers are very unhappy with that. There's also kind of the Netflix, HBO, Peacock, all of this stuff that's happening now where the money is up front. And I think if it goes that way, it could be really good for at least developers of our size. We're kind of like on the higher end of indie, not quite, like the one person like making their own game or whatever, but a little bit higher tier than that. I think that could work really, really well for people in that tier, if that's what Apple does with their stuff, if that's what Xbox chooses to do with their stuff, if that's what Stadia chooses to do. The concern there might be, well, are they all just going to want to get into Fortnite, or are they going to want like a bigger library of broader things? One of the things, so I have Xbox Game Pass for PC. I would never have played Sea of Thieves without that. I just wouldn't have got it. I wouldn't have it's like $40 on Steam. I'm not going to get that. But I had it already. A buddy of mine, where we were playing Halo together in the lead up to Halo Infinite, and I said, you know what? Why don't we try Sea of Thieves? Let's do it. And it is the most fun I've had all year. And so that's what excites me about this stuff. If they can if they can pay the creators up front, then suddenly it's a lot more stable of an industry. One of the biggest problems with indie game development is instability. It's not knowing if you're going to make ends meet at the end of this project that's taken you 2 or 3 years to do. And so if companies can start funding that at the beginning, hey, I'm all for that. If instead this turns into, hey, we're just going to pay you based on like the number of hours that people play your game, I'm kind of out. I don't know. I don't want to do that, right? That's scary to me. And that's scary both as a creator and as a game player. I don't want to make games that are padded out by like an extraordinary amount of hours, because that's how people get paid these days, right?
So, okay. So, very, very important question. Games that are padded out that way, would you call that length or girth?
Mother clucker.
Well,
all right,
okay,
I appreciate you didn't swear there. I'll give you 1 point for that.
So I will say that length for me is not quite as important as girth. I really like girth in games. And to me, girth in games is just a lot of different ways to do something. And length is you just do the same thing over and over and over and over again. So length doesn't feel quite as good when I get my hands on it. Whereas girth is really something meaty that I can grab hold of and really just do what I want with it.
I agree. It's all about girth and games journalism these days.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. No, that's kind of what I was thinking about it too. Like an open world, that could be a nice big girthy experience, which you can massage a little bit. Where like the Uncharted would be a lengthy experience, but not necessarily a girthy one, because you're just going down a straight path all the time.
Yeah, but they use it really well in Uncharted. They really know how to dig into the parts that matter there. They kind of pivot in the right ways at the right moments. I really like those games for that reason. So you don't have to be girthy if you don't want to, but I kind of like my chunky games.
So unfortunately I can't tell you exactly where girth originated from. But the central discussion that we're having now originated, I would say, from the Last of Us Part 2 spoiler cast that we did a couple of weeks ago, where all of us uniformly agreed that the game was nothing less than great, if not fantastic. But I was a little bit more critical, I would say, than my other co-hosts, in that I thought that the game felt a little bit too padded out, especially during its first half. And I was in the subsequent podcast that we recorded, I was talking about how, it feels like so many games of The Last of Us Part 2's ilk this generation feel padded out in a similar manner, like God of War 2018, Uncharted 4 from 2016, and a few others come to mind.
Thank you for not mentioning Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Exactly. Final Fantasy VII Remake is perfect.
Exactly. It's just a perfect game. So yeah, xCloud coming to Game Pass. Going to be interesting to see how that nets out, especially seeing a lot of developers come out and say how they've been happy with the Game Pass model. So it'll be interesting to see if Microsoft can continue to eat Google's lunch, especially since their cloud streaming or their cloud infrastructure is a lot better established, or at least larger in terms of market share than Google's.
I think part of it too is game companies used to lose money on consoles when they sold them and then make it back on games. Right now, I think Microsoft is throwing money hand over fist at people to get their game on Game Pass because they don't care if they lose money. They just want those subscribers, those subscriptions over and over again. And that's what I think Microsoft has that maybe Google doesn't. Google doesn't seem to have the drive to do it, or to really make their own games. Like there are certain games that you can only get on Microsoft platforms, and Google hasn't done that yet. They have some development teams, so we'll see what they come out with, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Keep in mind, Google now has Phil Harrison. Xbox used to have Phil Harrison.
Sony used to have Phil Harrison.
Yeah. So
way back in the PS2 days? I don't know.
That guy's had a bit of a girthy career. He's
been around.
I'm talking more now that I'm like halfway through this beer, so you got your wish, AJ.
Sorry, I've joined you.
I finished my second one, so I'm nice and slurred.
Especially
anyway. Moving on from the xCloud stuff. Somebody mentioned Final Fantasy VII Remake.
I did.
What's going on with that?
It's an amazing game. Everyone should play it. That's it.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Also, Nomura announced in an interview with Famitsu that Part 2 is in full development.
Oh yeah.
Wow,
hell yeah, it is.
So
2025.
We'll see. Honestly, I think a lot of the assets are already there. That it won't take as long as the first one.
So 2025.
Are they going to put it on PS5 or?
I would.
Redo everything to get up to quality. I don't know.
Final Fantasy VII Remake remastered for PS5, and then they're going to add, make you buy the second game, Part 2.
You don't have to remaster it. It's backwards compatible. This isn't cell architecture we're dealing with here.
Well, yeah, but do they have smart delivery on PlayStation? I don't know. By
the way, they do. It's just called cross-buy, and it's been a thing since the Vita. So
I don't know if that's the same thing. Cozy, you were going to say something.
I was going to say, a lot of people have been speculating that the second part in this series might be called Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or Reunion, because those are like motifs and like titles that come up throughout the experience. I want to say, like, all joking aside, I actually think that there is a very real chance of this coming out sooner than we expect. I think that because of COVID-19, we have to expect that it's probably not going to be coming out right away. But I think, am I crazy for saying that I think we could get it as soon as late next year?
No, because do you want to hear my crazy take?
Go for it.
I think we see Final Fantasy VII Remake announced tomorrow for Xbox Series X.
Oh, fuck.
And we get an announcement of Remake Part 2 coming in 2021.
I mean, we'll have to see tomorrow, is all I have to say about that. I do also want to say, so, a lot of this information about the current status of Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 came courtesy, as you said, of an interview in Japanese games magazine Famitsu. A lot of the details of this interview were actually translated by Twitter user Taiki Mochi. I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced. In any case,
I think
this Twitter user translated a bunch of other interesting things from the Famitsu interview, and I highly recommend that you go over to her Twitter account and check out the rest of what she had to share, because there are a lot of fun, interesting things there. Fans got to vote on like what their favorite scenes from the game were, and there's just a lot of fun details that I think if you enjoy this game, you're going to have a blast finding out about.
Can we go on a tangent here? How do you guys feel about tangents?
Go for it.
Go for it.
It's
So
your show, baby.
as somebody who played Final Fantasy VII way back in the day and really loved it, but barely has any time to game outside of gaming with friends, why should I play Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1 Reunion Edition PS4 Classic?
Do you want to go first, Mitch, or do you want me to go first?
No, go for it, Cozy.
Okay. Final Fantasy VII Remake is... I'm trying to put this into words very carefully so that I don't spoil anything. For the record, have you been spoiled to what happens, or have you not?
I've played through and beaten the entire first game, the original game, but right. I don't know what changes in this. I have no idea.
Okay,
so no spoilers for our listeners and viewers.
Right, without doing any spoilers, they subvert the Midgar section of the original Final Fantasy VII in a way that is very, like, to use a point of comparison, it feels very reminiscent of games like Metal Gear Solid 2, where it's
one of my favorite games ever. You don't even know me, and you know me. You know me so well.
But it is that same sort of thing where, like, it's sort of taking into account not just the kind of world of the game, but also like the cultural impact of the game outside of its own existence and how people perceive the game. And I don't want to spoil it any more than that, but they do something very clever involving that and sort of the central menace that the protagonists of the game face.
So I like to describe the systems in this game as being what I had hoped Kingdom Hearts 3 was going to be in terms of the way it played. The combat, at least using like the action system, not the classic system, it felt like I can't even describe it. The combat just felt so right in terms of like everything, the balancing between your different abilities and items and equipment and materia, and it all plays so well with the systems that they've built into this game that I couldn't stop playing it. This is the first game where I finished a playthrough and immediately started a second playthrough because I just loved every minute in these systems with these mechanics. And that being said, it's probably my game of the year at this point. And I can't put into words how much I enjoyed this game. It's really difficult for me, actually.
Yeah,
it's the most emotional I've been playing a game this year. That's 100% for sure. And
I was going to say, emotional seems like the right word there. You guys are like brimming. You're almost crying in tears. Now I feel like I have to play it. This is okay. Because I felt like, am I going to play it, and is it going to kind of, not necessarily ruin my childhood, but I'm a different human than I was when I was 12 years old, or however I was when I played this game. So, like, is it going to be good by 2020 standards, not by looking at the old game with rosy colored glasses? And it sounds like it totally is for you guys.
I never played the original, just to add context to that.
Okay.
So
go ahead.
Sorry, I'm nowhere near. I picked it up late, and I've got a few chapters in to it. I have played the original back in the day, so it's an interesting retelling of the story, like as far as I've gotten so far, with like details that weren't ever in the first game, because obviously they're padding out the Midgar section with more content. But it's highlighting characters that I really like so far, and it actually makes me feel bad. I should go back and finish this. I wish I didn't have so many other games on the plate.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say about it is, you talked about how you're concerned that you're going to go back and play through this game and you're going to realize, oh, this, game that I love from my childhood is not as great as I remembered it. I don't think you're going to have that issue because, and again, trying to remain as spoiler-free as possible, but Final Fantasy VII Remake is less a remake of Final Fantasy VII and more a game about remaking Final Fantasy VII. I know that sounds confusing, but once you experience the game, you'll understand what I was getting at.
Okay. Interesting.
I would just say play the demo. The demo hooked me into the game, into the mechanics, into the systems. If the demo is up your alley, then you'll love the full game.
You know what? You saying there's a demo makes me 100% certain I will play it now. So yeah, I'll do that, and then I'll report back to AJ in our group chat, and you can see what I think of it then.
You know, you're welcome back on the show anytime. So you can tell them yourself if you want. Yeah, so it looks like that's all we've got for news at the moment. So how about we move on to read/watch all the things? What do we got going on in the rest of the world today?
A couple of fun little tidbits. Today, July 22nd, Mixer officially shuts down.
Oh, what a fun tidbit.
Wow.
RIP Mixer. No, I mean, if you had people that you enjoyed watching their content on Mixer, go find where they ended up, go give them a follow, give them a subscribe, because anyone who has their livelihood just ripped out from under them like that deserves anybody's help who's listening. So please go and do that.
I just want to say
it shut down. Sorry, I'm talking over people. My apologies.
No. So am I. It's fine. It's whatever. Okay, I'll go first. Great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Go first.
I just want to say shout out to Microsoft because you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Good on them for trying to compete with Twitch and YouTube, but hey, call it quits when you gotta call it quits. Ben, you might remember, you and I are both Giant Bomb fans, and one of the things they like to do once in a while is when an online service or a game or something shuts down, they will play it out to the end.
Yeah.
And apparently Jeff Gersman of giantbomb.com, a website about video games, has been streaming on Mixer for like the last couple of weeks a little bit. I didn't tune into it or anything like that, but one of the things on Giant Bomb that they did most notably with regards to that is the Matrix Online. They played right until the servers shut off. And it's something to experience. Go ahead.
Fun fact for Matrix Online, I think a friend of the show, Steve Saylor, was actually a DJ on one of the radio stations in that game.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing. I wish that was in my resume. That's so cool.
He's definitely he's a phenomenal human being. We wanted to have him on actually for our Last of Us 2 spoiler cast because he actually was an accessibility consultant on the game. Unfortunately, life got in the way.
You may have seen all the news articles going around with the accessibility and stuff like that. He was that guy. Anyway,
cool.
One of those guys.
Yeah. There's a number, but yeah.
Anyway,
a couple other interesting tidbits. Today, Logitech announced a $1,500 gaming chair, so roughly $1,800 Canadian. And DualShockers decided to put together a list of 10 things you could get with that money instead of buying a gaming chair. First, you could get an RTX 2080 and a Switch. Secondly, you could get a 75-inch Sony TV. Third, you could get over 6,000 packets of chicken ramen. Probably speculative. You could get both the Series X and PlayStation 5. Fifth, and this is not one I understand because I think it's a Magic the Gathering thing, 1/28th of a beta Black Lotus.
That's a very rare Magic card.
Super rare card.
There were a couple of news stories from a couple of years ago about how rare that card was and whatnot.
You could sorry, go ahead.
It was rare when I played Magic like a bazillion years ago. So,
which means it's probably more rare now.
Yeah.
Sixth, you could adopt a variety of rescue puppies and kittens. That price may vary, but it includes a number of fluffy things, and that's lovely. Seventh, and I'm not actually familiar with this, the Polymega. It looks like some sort of universal gaming system, maybe. I don't know. Eighth, you could buy an 8-day Caribbean cruise for two, which
comes with free COVID.
I was going to say you might not want that right now. The gaming chair might be more useful. You could buy every game on DualShockers 50 best video games of the decade list.
Wow.
And 10th, you could buy over 60,000 gems in Raid Shadow Legends.
Was this list sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends?
I don't think so, but DualShockers, shout out to them on Twitter. Go give them a follow.
So you guys didn't know this when you asked me to be on the show, but I'm going to turn my chair around and you will notice that it looks eerily similar to the Logitech gaming chair, and that's because it's probably it's the Herman Miller Embody chair, which is the same price as the Logitech Embody chair. I didn't know how many ramen packets I could have bought instead of buying this chair.
I'm sure it was a business expense, right?
It is a business expense. It's also, hey, look, I'm going to justify it here in case my wife's listening to this later and thinks we could have gotten like 30 puppies.
I'm sorry I brought up the puppies.
I sit in this chair at least 8 hours a day, usually a lot more if I'm playing Sea of Thieves. So I worked that out over the 10-year warranty of the chair itself, and it's something like pennies a day. And so it seemed stupid not to do it at a time where I didn't know that I could buy 1/28 of the greatest Magic card ever with the price that I could have bought this chair for.
I was going to say, if you're buying 1/28 of the greatest Magic card ever, doesn't it mean it's actually useless? Because it's like a card ripped into a 28th of a piece.
That is
correct. It's a very small portion of it. It'd be like shared ownership of it. So you'd have to like get in with 28 other people.
I get it on Sundays.
Yeah, you can have it on Sundays. I'll take the every other Tuesday.
You have to coordinate your Magic games around your schedule.
I meant that more in the simple sense. I meant that more in the simple sense, so that like if you take the card and you rip off a 28th of it, I mean, both the piece that you ripped off and the rest of the card are now useless.
Oh, I need to go get some glue right now.
Oh shit.
All right.
By the way, I just want to say quickly on the subject of chairs, I actually am currently sitting right now in a refurbished steel case Leap. I got it off of Kijiji, which is like a Canadian Craigslist, not too long ago, and I'm very satisfied with it. And I just want to say, if you have a racing chair, just chuck it in the garbage right now and get a real chair. That's a PSA from Alexander Kazina.
While we're on the topic, I had a normal office chair, but now I have a kitchen chair that I stole from downstairs. And just put my Giant Bomb jersey that I wore to EGLX on, because I found that my office chair that I got from Staples for like $100 was way too squeaky for this podcast. So
yeah, you get what you pay for.
I mean, look, that kitchen chair is still better than a racing chair.
It's very quiet. I can tell you that much.
All right, last on our read/watch/ I guess in this case listen to all the things. Has anyone else had the Bug Snacks theme on repeat on their phone?
Absolutely.
No. Yeah. It is so friggin' catchy, and they're releasing it on vinyl. So if you are a vinyl collector, they're releasing a 7-inch single of the Bug Snacks theme, and yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah, it's
it looks like a strawberry.
The song is great. The vinyl looks like a strawberry, and fun fact about I think the packaging of the vinyl, it's scratch and sniff.
Correct.
That's awesome. Bug Snacks is going to be the game of the year this year. I can tell. There's no other close competition that would even be in
Spider-Man Miles Morales would like a word.
Last of Us Part Who? More like Bug Snacks, am I right?
Yeah, it's all about the Bug Snacks. This is excellent.
Talking about Bug Snacks.
I don't have a record player, but I want a vinyl of that for some reason.
So we can share ownership of my vinyl or my record player.
Our company had a meeting with I Am 8-Bit earlier this week, and we talked about the Bug Snacks vinyl and how like financially that sounded like it could be a terrible deal for them, and they just did it because they couldn't get the song out of their head, and they're like, I think everybody's gonna feel the way that we do. Let's just do it. We'll just put it out. Let's just do it. And they did it. And I think it's gonna work because I think everybody feels like they did.
If you talk to them again, you can tell them that I pre-ordered 2 of them.
And there you go.
So I'm sitting here just contemplating doing it myself right now. Actually,
do it.
All right, I'm done. I'm gonna go pre-order the Bug Snacks vinyl. AJ, back to you.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, actually, it's kind of not back to me because we are into the deals portion of the podcast. And the only person who has put any deals is Mitch. So
it's like every other week.
Just like every other week.
I also had the Bugsnax vinyl in here because someone added it up top, even though I added it here. But whatever. So there's a summer sale going on the PSN right now. There's a lot of really good stuff on sale, and people are changing. Oh, I'm forgetting what the name of this game is.
You have to read what it says.
No, I don't, because I need to give people the facts. So at 50% off on whatever your store in Canada, it's $14.99, is Astrobot Rescue Mission.
Astro Girth, I think.
Please stop. At 70% off, this is the steal of the bundle, and I'm really sad Alex isn't here. You can get every Kingdom Hearts game ever made in one package on the PlayStation for $40 Canadian, which is just stupid.
Ooh.
$40
well.
too much.
No. I mean, it's $40.04, but I would pay more than 4 cents for that game. I would pay this for that game and then give Alex my hard copy so he has to play it because he'll feel guilty otherwise. Tetris Effect, another great game, whether or not you have VR, is also 50% off. So in Canada, that's roughly $27. Now I'm done, and I'm going to go pre-order the Bugsnax vinyl.
Persona! All the Personas are on sale too.
Ooh.
So for Persona Royal, in the different various editions, I think the Ultimate is what I paid for it when it went on sale for the PlayStation something sale, but like $100. It's normally like 130. So if you haven't played Persona 5 Royale and you have 150 hours, that's the game you should get.
No, thank you. I think I'm good. All right. And with that, I think it's time to move on to our topic of the show. This week, as previously mentioned, is a very special week because we got our very first guest on the podcast, Mr. Ben Wander. Welcome again to the podcast.
Hey.
Press YYZ.
I'm your friend. I'm very much your friend. You did not pay me to say this. You are my friend. You are my friend.
No gun to your head. No gun to your head.
Blink twice if you need us to call 911.
Yeah. So I've brought Ben up a couple times in the a podcast, once or twice, give or take. And he's had a very, very interesting career up to this point. It
sounds like you're about to kill me at the end of this sentence. He's been great. Hasn't his life been amazing from birth until the end of it right now?
Guys, this is a eulogy.
Yeah.
No, and you are one of my best friends in the whole world. You so much so you invited me to stand up with you at your wedding along with some of our other friends. And I just wanted to bring you onto the podcast so that everybody else could kind of get to know you a little bit. So I'm not I'm not entirely sure where to start or how to start with this. Whether or not it be with what you're currently doing now or how you got to this point. But
we met at Harvey's in 10th grade.
Correct.
I think I had a double cheeseburger because that's my typical Harvey's order. It's the thing I miss most from living in the US right now.
Oh,
I had Harvey's for lunch today, and it's as good as you remember it being.
I'm so jealous of all of you.
I haven't had a Harvey's in so long.
Mm-hmm. Dude, it's worth sad. It. And also, they have a mobile app now that's actually pretty decent. You can order ahead, so you just go in, pick up your food, and leave. And we're going to talk for 45 minutes now about Harvey's.
Is it called Ask Harvey? Is that the website? Can I go to Ask Harvey and just type anything?
No, I think that's something else. This ain't a search engine. Sorry, I interrupted. Harvey's is great. Please continue.
Oh yeah, no. So back in 10th grade, we if I'm remembering correctly, it was 10th grade for me, 11th grade for you, because you're actually a year older than me.
Junior over here, yeah.
Yeah. And we growing up, we just spent a lot of our time playing video games. We had infamous, nights until 3 a.m. where we'd play Frank Sinatra music and play Halo 2 until 3 a.m. That crazy, ridiculous. You probably don't.
As did everybody, I'm certain. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, everybody.
Old blue eyes, classic. Halo gaming.
Yeah, of course. You have had kind of an interesting career through line because you went to. It's been advantageous. You went to the local arts high school, and you became, when you eventually went to university, a computer science major.
Yeah, I did nothing with my art degree. I have a fine arts high school diploma or something, and that is useless. Nobody cares, and I'm not good at art, so it doesn't matter.
But here's the thing. I remember having a conversation with you where it actually was sort of like advantageous because you kind of grasp the broader concepts of the artistic vision and stuff like that. So I don't know if it helped you in your like in co-op in university and whatnot, or
Yeah, I mean, if we're trying to give advice to the youths,
sure,
I would say the more that you know about the different parts of making games, the better it's going to make you be at either working on your own or working with other people. The fact that I have some degree of artistic eye, at least I know the basic concepts of it, helps me work with artists in a way that I otherwise couldn't, and helps me understand kind of what they do and what they're dealing with. So yeah, it's helpful for sure.
wow. I don't know if you guys heard that on your end. Thunder just exploded overhead of my house. So if I drop out, one of you guys is going to have to take over.
Shit.
Yeah.
That's really
Anyway.
bad. We can't lose your podcast recording.
Oh, no. No, it should be fine. It should be fine. You got the Twitch archive. It'll be fine. Yeah. So, okay. So you went to Waterloo and you had
The Warriors.
Yeah, for 4 years. And you invited me and Kenny there once. Our mutual friend Kenny, who was your neighbor. We participated in a bit of a game jam that you threw. Because you were.
Oh yeah! Holy shit! I totally forgot about that. Oh, sorry, Cozy's mom. Holy poop! That's.
You were the head of the.
Nice save.
I don't think that my mom is listening anymore. I think she was so distraught that she logged off ahead of time and is like, no, I don't want to be any part of this.
Fair enough. Yeah, no. So you were head of the game development club. Like, that's kind of a big deal. I would assume, especially.
I think it's just nobody else wanted to do it. It was a bunch of organizing stuff and a bunch of needing to like put on game jams and not actually participate in some of them because you're running around getting pizza or whatever. So I think it was an opportunity that I took because there were other better people who could do it that didn't want it.
I was gonna say I help run hackathons at work, and it's a fucking nightmare.
Yeah,
because his mom's gone, so I can swear again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. I hope my mom's not watching. Sorry, Mom.
Girth, yeah.
She'll listen later on any podcast service you might find the show on at Press YYZ.
Ooh.
Yeah. So after the university, or actually during university, I guess you went to various co-op placements and stuff like that. You mentioned earlier in the show that you did some EA mobile stuff.
Yeah, so let's pause on that a little bit because I also I teach now. I'm an adjunct professor at the University of Denver, and often my students ask me, what can I do to get a games job in the industry? And my answer is always, if you're a student, get an internship. It's so much easier to get a job as an intern than it is to get a beginner, entry level job. An intern there, especially in Canada, man, there's so much tax incentive to hire an intern. They're basically paying the company to train you, and then the company's paying you to like get experience and get training and get whatever. So I'm a huge fan of co-op programs. That's not really a thing stateside, unfortunately. But even if you're not in a co-op program, if you're a student or have just been a student, I think the limit is like 2 years since you left school to be an intern. And so take advantage of that. I mean, if you're in school and you want to be a game developer, go get an internship. A lot of them are paid these days, so you're not even you're making money while learning. And
In
you
Canada,
can get
I think they have
way
to be.
easier.
There you
go.
Canada, especially if you're going through your university. I know you haven't gone to Waterloo, are probably very familiar with the co-op program there.
Yeah.
I think all Canadian universities, as far as I know, if they have a co-op program, they will not accept you going to a co-op that is unpaid.
Cool. Yeah, that wasn't the case. That was the case in computer science. I think like kinesthesiology or what. So some of the other weirder programs didn't have that, but at least for like engineering and computer science, that was the case at Waterloo. Even if it's unpaid,
maybe that is the case then, yeah. Because I mean, as someone who came up through software engineering, similar boat of if I was going anywhere, it was going to have co-op and it was going to be paid.
Yeah, totally. So anyway, that's my rant on internships and co-op programs. I think they're amazing. I think you should take advantage of it, even if your school doesn't have that in particular. Use your summers, use your time off. Heck, take a semester off of school. It is totally worth it. I learned so much more in my internships, being in there, being in the thick of it with actual developers than I would have known otherwise just leaving college.
So after those internships and after the co-op placements and everything like that, so you worked at the I guess the mobile game studio downtown Toronto, somewhere on King Street or something like that.
King and University, King College, something like that.
Yeah,
I was gonna say King and Spadina is where all those software shops tend to be, but
they've shut down. Unfortunately, I looked through my history. So I worked at EA Mobile Montreal, which is shut down. I worked at XMG Games, which was the one in downtown Toronto, which is shut down. I worked at Silicon Knights, which is in St. Catharines, Ontario, or used to be. That is shut down. Those were my internships, and then I worked at BioWare, which is not yet shut down, but Anthem is doing its darndest to try to close it.
Hold on a quick second.
Do you mind Sorry, go ahead.
Well, you were going to say something first, so you can.
I was just going to say I had a friend that was co-op at EA Montreal working on mobile stuff. I was just wondering if there was any overlap there. What is there anything you can talk about that you worked on? Because I know what he worked on. It'd be interesting if there was that overlap.
Yeah, I was there in 2009, and it was SimCity Deluxe. That was the game. And mobile was amazing because it was like at the time, the iPhone was just coming out. My Google thinks I'm talking to it. No, Google, I'm not talking to you. The iPhone was just coming out, and so they still were developing like really tiny teams and letting people like interns be the lead designers of games. And so that was the most amazing experience I ever had, and you cannot replicate it these days, but it was so much fun. It was this like team of 5 people, and we always hung out and just played games and made games together. It was so much fun. We had a blast. EA Mobile was super cool.
So I wanted to go back quickly. You mentioned that you briefly worked at Silicon Knights. Can you talk about what you worked on there as well, or is that under wraps?
No, yeah. Well, I mean, Silicon Knights is defunct, so I don't know who's going to sue me if it was anything under wraps. But no, I worked on a very, very mediocre game called X-Men Legends. It's not.
Oh yeah, that one.
I remember that.
X-Men Destiny, actually.
I played it actually on the Wii.
Is it X-Men Destiny?
I just looked it up.
X-Men
Destiny.
Oh, you're right. I think X-Men Legends might have been the first name of it or something. Or it could be confused. X-Men Destiny, you're right, is this game.
X-Men Legends was the precursor to Marvel's Ultimate Alliance.
Okay, that's what I'm confusing. See, I don't even remember it's kind of like the potato of video games. It's like not good enough on its own. It's not good enough to be like amazing, and it's not bad enough that you want to play it for any reason, like it's so amazingly bad. It's like right in the center. It's like a boiled potato. It's just average.
Nothing wrong with a good boiled potato.
Yeah,
absolutely not. Shortly after that, I guess you went to BioWare in Edmonton, right?
Yeah, that's right. I spent a year at BioWare working on Dragon Age Inquisition. That's the only company I've worked for other than my current one that I started myself that is still in business for now. Fingers crossed. I really hope so. They're good people there. Yeah, that was fun. I don't know if there's anything else to say there. I was a software engineer then. That was my yeah.
Okay, so I remember having a conversation with you, and like whenever I talk to you about games and stuff, like I'm less interested in the broad concepts, and I want to know specifically, because I know you, I want to be able to like point to a friend of mine and say, hey, I know the guy who made this, right? And like whether it be a speed tree asset or something like that. From what I remember you saying back in 2014 when that game was coming out, you worked on the AI pathing for your party.
Yeah, I'll do you one better. I integrated nav power into Frostbite. So any game that uses a nav mesh, which up until that time was only Battlefield 3, and they didn't use nav meshes, they just used nodes. So if you go back and play single player Battlefield 3, there are soldiers walking from point A to point B and back again. And that's all that they do, and they wait for you to shoot them, and that's it. And then EA said, here's this engine, go make an open world RPG with it.
Having read Jason Schreier's book, I know some of the hardships you may have gone through doing that.
Yeah, so we were literally the first game that was not a Battlefield game to make a game on Frostbite. So you can imagine the scripting language that was in it when we first got it, I kid you not, was clouds in the sky. You had to drop into the game and like look up at the sky and drag nodes around that way before they got their schematic system in. It was crazy. It was insane. It was this like really cool thing. So any game on Frostbite that has walking in it is built on the code that I integrated into it. So that's like a cool, neat thing that I can say that I can tell people. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's actually pretty amazing. Yeah, so like basically you helped make Star Wars, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I make every and any game possible. Ever.
Yeah. Cozy, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, I feel like nowadays a lot of people forget that when the decision to first use Frostbite with that series was first made, it was very much viewed as, hey, this is going to help take the series to the next level. It wasn't this, like, as I understand it, a thing of like EA pressuring BioWare to do so. It was something that everybody kind of mutually agreed upon as something that would help advance the series forward. Am I correct about that?
I don't know. I don't really think so. If I'm being completely honest with you, I think it was mostly driven by EA wanting everybody to be on the same engine and have the same support. Like so I won't lie to you. At the time, we were kind of excited about it because we were seeing all the visuals that were possible with especially with Battlefield, like coming to like a state of the art engine with like bleeding edge graphics that looked better than anything anybody had seen before felt amazing until you put your hands on it at the time, and it was a paper tiger, right? Like they were, as any developer does, of course, they were cheating in a lot of ways, that nav mesh being one of them, right? And so I think I don't know if it was a great decision for EA or not, but I understand where they were coming from. And I guess what I'll say is like, I don't know if the leadership would have made that decision otherwise, but at least we got excited about it initially until we really dove into it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I wanted to kind of lead into that to ask like when you guys more or less knew that, oh, this is a bit of an issue, but I feel like you kind of answered that question.
Yeah, at the time I was like the most junior developer you could be. I was a software engineer 1. I guess there's associate software engineer, which I managed to skip over. But as a software engineer 1, I didn't really get to make any of those calls. But even I ended up realizing that like, oh, they don't have a nav mesh in a game engine. This thing is pretty raw at this point. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess when your bread and butter is building first-person shooter experiences that focus on multiplayer and having all the characters be player-controlled, that those kind of things aren't front of mind when building out a game engine that you're building for first-person shooter multiplayer experiences.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, speaking of Battlefield, you shortly thereafter, I guess, found your way over to Visceral, where you were on Battlefield Hardline.
That's right. Yeah, so they were looking for people who knew how Frostbite worked, and I was a person who knew how Frostbite worked. So I also was getting Frostbite from being in Edmonton, which is very, very cold.
Good job.
I spent my winter in Edmonton, I was told, was really lucky because there was only a single week of -50. And
Ooh.
I went, great. So they have this opening in California. I'm going to go do that.
Probably a good call.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I went and worked on Battlefield Hardline there. I started as a software engineer, kind of helping with game modes and stuff. And it was really my goal the whole time to eventually transfer into game design. I like to play games. I like to, think about the design of games. If you look at my bookshelf back there, I have a bunch of game design textbooks. They're not coding textbooks. So that's really where my heart is. And I transitioned to being a systems and game modes designer on the multiplayer side of Battlefield Hardline, which I maintain is the best multiplayer Battlefield game you can play to this day. I really think Battlefield Hardline is an amazing game. And I'm not just trying to fluff it up. I told you X-Men Destiny is a game that you should never play ever. I really think Battlefield Hardline is an underappreciated gem. That multiplayer is really, really fun.
Is that the cop one?
Yes, that's the cops.
Yeah.
Which we had to again. There was a series of Battlefield games that just had tanks and slow-moving helicopters, and we had to put race cars in it. So with 64 players, which at the time was like unheard of, so it was a lot of technical challenges there too.
Yeah.
And now every shooter that doesn't come out with a battle royale is failing in some way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, remember when 64 players was way too many? Yeah, those days were quaint, weren't they?
I mean, looking back, we had MAG on the PS3, which was what, 128?
Yeah.
So that was that still set a bar that hasn't been matched by some of these battle royals. So
True.
I'm just saying.
What was that game with the somebody modded it to have 2,000 or 3,000 multiplayer? Just Cause 2 multiplayer mod on Steam or something like that had like 2,000 players, and that was nuts. And I'm personally excited for battle royales to get to that point.
You're a crazy person, but okay.
Yeah, I didn't play the Just Cause mod or anything like that, but I don't know. Quantity excites me sometimes. So at this point in your career, this is where you kind of branch. So you decided, you quit basically. Yeah, you decided to go out on your own and kind of do your own thing, but you had a very interesting twist to this whole experience that I don't think a lot of other people had. And just for context, this is how I ended up going to Japan for my own vacation, is because you were going to go on vacation in Japan as well, because you were already kind of touring around Southeast Asia.
Yeah, I had a job in the Bay Area that paid really good money, enough to pay my really high rent. And then I quit my job in the Bay Area and suddenly had no way to pay my really high rent. So I had to GTFO, and I went, if I'm going to go anywhere, let's go travel. Let's go through Southeast Asia. I'd been watching a lot of Anthony Bourdain. He, influenced me on all the amazing fuzz and curries and ramens that I could be eating. And so, yeah, the first year of the development for A Case of Distrust, which was my first indie game, happened in Southeast Asia, and it was the best time. It's really fun. I spent 3 months in a bunch of different places, 2.5 months, and then in between kind of went on mini vacations, like a little vacation in Japan, because turns out Japan's pretty expensive too, so I couldn't spend 3 months there either. We went to a whole swath of places, so it was a cool life experience, and it also helped make my first indie game, which was really awesome.
Yeah. A Case of Distrust. Now, like, you were touring around Southeast Asia, but making a game about 1920s San Francisco.
Yeah, I left San Francisco to make a game about San Francisco.
Yeah, go figure. How did that? Yeah, how did that? So I don't know that, like, your roundup, I guess, of like how that whole experience of A Case of Distrust went. Like like how did it net out for you? Like was it successful in your opinion? Like did you achieve the goals you wanted to achieve and like and all
Yeah,
that?
so I have a really it's kind of like a personal, intimate story where the game that I spent 2.5 years working on the third day that it launched, the Steam sales were 31. And I was on my couch crying. Like I poured my heart and soul into this thing, and nobody knew about it. Nobody was playing it. Nobody did anything with it. And then literally the next day, after my fiance at the time was like consoling me, literally the next day, or she was my wife then, I think. Fiance, something like that.
2018,
Fiance. She was fiance. Yeah.
no, that wife.
The day after that, I don't know how, Colin Campbell picked it up, who is a writer at Polygon. He gave it a 9 out of 10. And then it exploded. Like then, people really, really picked it up. I didn't get rich off of it. I'm not like living the life or whatever. But I did, the game made its money back, which is especially rare for indie games. I really want to stress this for people. I think we have people on our current Discord now who are like, well, why would people need publishers and why would people take deals and all this stuff? A Case of Distress is on Switch. You can get it on Switch now too.
I was going to say, I feel like you tried to show that it was on the Switch, but I couldn't really make out what you were trying to show, Mitch.
I was actually showing the fact that I just bought it because it's actually that is our deal of the day. The thing's on sale right now for a ridiculous amount. So if you're interested at all in what Ben's saying right now, go pick it up.
Yeah, it's a narrative mystery from 1924 San Francisco. It's a historical fiction. That's why I was kind of asking about Ghosts of Tsushima, if that was historical, because I'm in general really into historical fiction, usually in writing. Not too many games do it, although Assassin's Creed kind of delves into that and stuff. So I am excited to go play Ghosts of Tsushima. And so A Case of Distress was really cool to make. It made its money back, which is great. And I think a lot of people don't understand how hard it is making indie games and surviving doing it. So I'm very, very grateful that I managed to do that so far, and hopefully will continue to in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I in all honesty, like I didn't get all the way through the game myself because my ADHD tends to get in the way of that sort of thing. But if you're into a good narrative experience where you're you're a classic adventure game is what I would describe it as.
Yeah, it's kind of like an adventure game meets a Phoenix Wright meets like a choose your own story novel, that type of thing.
I was just gonna say I love those kind of experiences on the Switch because it is just pick it up and get back to the story whenever the case might be. So I was very glad that when I Googled the name of the game, the first thing that popped up was Nintendo, and the second thing that I noticed was the fact that it's on sale right now. So very much looking forward to checking that over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
cool. Yeah. I hope you like it. That was a lot of hard work. There's 75,000 words in that game, if you can believe it. I wrote a friggin' novel. Yeah. And it's all the different things you can ask, all the different paths you can take, the different ways you can get to places. If I had to say one thing that I wish I did in that game, it's I wish I did the telltale thing of this person will remember X. Because that makes it so much more clear that like you're impacting the game. And I've had the criticism that like, hey, I feel like I'm not really making decisions in this game, and I'm ripping my hair out. I'm like, you MFers, like you have no idea how much I'm tracking here. It's so much stuff, and I had to spend so long doing it. So note to self in future: be very explicit to players when they're branching, because then it feels more cool to everybody. Should have known that going in.
Fair enough. So then that finally leads us to what you are working on right now. And that is a little game called Airborne Kingdom. Something that I have played. And that
I think you've talked about this from the first episode of the show until right now.
Quite possibly. I played a build of this game that was originally on Steam, but since then it has now gone exclusive to the Epic Game Store.
That's right.
Yeah, so before we get into the game itself, what happened there? How did that happen?
So I mean, it's basically Epic is funding the game. I mean, they're pretty much a first party. The way we describe it is it's like Sony is funding the game, therefore we're exclusive to PlayStation. Microsoft is funding the game, we'd be exclusive to the Xbox. Epic is funding the game, so we're exclusive to their store. And we've kind of had that question of like, why did you choose that? And the biggest reason, it's not the only reason, but the biggest reason is we have literally never had ever, and we've been a part of this deal for like a year and a half now. We have never had a single meeting with Epic where they even ask us about the progress of the game, what we're doing, what the, how the different mechanics are going. We hear about other publishing deals and people have like all of these monthly milestones to meet and all these deadlines to hit. And it just feels so rigid in a way that isn't conducive, in my opinion, to making a good game. And so for us, we really let the game itself lead the development. We're really big fans of iterative development. And so the fact that we can do that we can change what the game is kind of on the fly, and that we're not beholden to anybody, that we keep our vision of it. Like, and I don't even mean that of like, we keep the IP. I feel like a lot of publishers will say, hey, you can keep the IP. It's all yours. After the game launches, it's your thing. You can do what you want. Yeah, but they'll control everything you do along the way. Epic has fully been hands off, and they promised that from the beginning, and they've been genuine in it.
Oh, wow.
And so that is unheard of, like to fully fund a game, to let us do exactly what we want, to not even put a deadline on it. We can release it whenever we want. And their only caveat was, hey, on PC and Mac and Linux, if we come out with a Linux build, which we're probably not going to, but on personal computers, it can only be on the Epic Game Store. That felt like a no-brainer to us. Like, that's just, I want to make the best game possible, and this lets us do that. This lets us hire the contractors we need. This lets us hire like QA that we need and PR and stuff. And it's really, really important to me that whatever we put out is a quality, good product. And this lets us do that. So yeah, it's the reason we went with them. And I think it was the right decision.
What I'm hearing there is still hope for Stadia. So fingers crossed.
I don't know about Stadia. That's interesting. Yeah, I know.
PC.
Yeah,
and keyboard. I don't know. There might be a loophole. Think about it.
It's true. We'll have to chat with our Epic contacts. We'll see.
Think about it.
So
we could sell an extra 5 copies on Stadia. It's true.
Maybe.
And AJ would buy 4 of them.
No, I just use my Stadia Pro and just redeem that. That's fine.
So I'm curious. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I'm slightly tongue in cheek making fun of Stadia people, but I do know some people there, and they're really good people who are working really hard. So I hope it works out for them for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. I did want to ask, what exactly motivated you to go with a game of this sort of concept? I feel like after making your prior game, which is a sort of subtle noir thriller set in 1920s San Francisco. You can correct me if the decade is wrong. I feel like this is not the game that I would have thought you would have followed it up with, which is this sort of fantastical airborne vehicle construction game. Yeah, city builder. Well, I mean, are they cities or are they vehicles? I mean,
it's up to you to decide. Yeah,
it sounds like the answer is just yes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, yeah, Airborne Kingdom is kind of city builder meets exploration in a fantastical setting. And you're right, it's very different from A Case of Distress. It's I would say the one thread that ties them together, it's something that you could never see in AAA. And when people ask me like, why did you leave AAA games? It's not because it wasn't fun. It's not because I wasn't having a good time. Like, I was making video games for a living. That's what I wanted to do my whole life, right? But it was a specific type of video game that needed to sell a certain amount, that needed to cross some threshold. And with a smaller team, with a smaller group of people, we just don't have that as a limitation, which again, good and bad sides of it. Like EA, no matter what, is going to sell a minimum threshold of games because they have all the money in the world to like throw at it, right? We're an indie team. We're a little bit more scrappy. We don't have like the expertise of a 200-person team. But what we can do, like how we can fight EA, is not by going like after Battlefield. It's by finding these sort of niche, cool, quaint games that you can make. Airborne Kingdom, the origin story of it is actually really interesting. So it started off as when we were just pitching ideas to one another. It started with ex Visceral developers. Visceral Games shut down right around the time I was releasing A Case of Distrust. So it was this sort of serendipitous meeting of people where, you know, I was finishing a game, they were looking for something not in AAA, something more creative, and it just sort of worked out. I had this idea for like a bartending simulator in World War II occupied Paris. Yeah, get ready. You all of those
don't give away. I was gonna say, don't give away all your ideas because that sounds.
Please,
awesome.
somebody make this. Oh my God, somebody make this. It would be so good. It was like a VR concept at some point. We were gonna try to get Oculus to fund it or whatever. And then we kind of realized, like, you know, that's not really the type of game that we want. And I'd been kind of burnt out on writing, and I hadn't been playing that. I've been playing a lot of city builders, and so had everybody on the team. And so we said, okay, what if it's more of a management game? What if you're managing the hotel? Well, there's a lot of management games. Managing a hotel isn't that fun. What if it's a hotel in the sky? And then we went from like hotel in the sky to, well, why am I just managing a hotel? Why don't I build a whole city? And that's really when it took off. And so it is a really roundabout way to get there. But this was all within like the first few weeks of just ideating. I think the really big twist in it came when Fred, our programmer, suggested, like, you know, we had the city in the sky, we had this prototype, we had a little city builder. And he was like, man, it's in the sky. I want it to move somewhere. Like, I want to go places. It's right here. Fred Garreau is also the person who sat in a room of designers who were pulling their hair out, trying to come up with a game mode in Battlefield Hardline inspired by Gone in 60 Seconds that wasn't just people camping cars with rocket launchers. And Fred, in his brilliance, said, what if the game is just take cars, drive fast? And if you played Battlefield Hardline, that's the mode Hotwire. It's literally you just get points for your team by driving the cars faster in it. It's like the simplest, most weirdest mode, and it rates like the most fun people have in it. It's like the only mode that's not standard deathmatch that still has anybody playing it these days. And so kind of in the same way, he's like, I don't know, man, why don't we just make the city move? And that wasn't that hard to do. We added like a right click to prototype. Like, why not? It's like an RPG. You right click, you move somewhere. And that was when we realized that we had something really special there. That was when, oh, wow, there's this cool thing in the distance. There's this like resource that I really want or need, or some interesting artifact that like could go well with my city. I can move that way, but then I lose access to what's behind me. Or then maybe I need to keep moving because the resources below me are running out. Well, now suddenly I have movement to deal with. I have lift to deal with. I have balance to deal with. On top of, hey, I'm building a kingdom. I need people with houses. I need to give them food. I need to give them water, all this stuff. So that, in kind of a really short summation, is how Airborne Kingdom came to be. And I think we've come up with something hopefully pretty special that kind of blends exploration and city building in a way that you haven't seen before. And like I said, that's really our goal coming out of AAA, is to give you something new and interesting to latch onto that hopefully is fun for enough people that we get to keep going and we get to keep doing this.
Yeah. Like I mentioned earlier, I've had the privilege to play this. You've asked me for some feedback and stuff like that. Well, I haven't played the latest build necessarily. I played the one before it, but it pretty well, the start of it goes to the same place. Like, you start off with just the center mass of a building, and you just sort of have to go through kind of the tech tree and expand upon it, and then go from one place to another, and then there's little settlements down below you and resources like trees and water and coal and stuff that you have to try and balance to keep your city afloat. Now, I'm not sure what happens if you don't do that, if it's just a game over screen or if you get to witness the whole death of the whole city. But you can eventually get to even bigger ground settlements and stuff like that, and trade with them. And it seems like there's just a world of opportunity there for creativity.
There's a lot. We built a big game. We kind of realized that we're like, oh, like a 6-hour campaign or something in a city builder. That's about what Frostpunk is. That'd be great. and it takes me, who like knows the game and plays it at like triple speed, like 7 hours to play through all of it. And so I'm like really worried that it's way too big, but hopefully that gives people more content, right? That's those, we got like every indie team does. We got too friggin' excited about our own idea, and we're like, well, yeah, but what if there was like this biome that's kind of swampy, and what if there's this other area that's all mountainous, and what if you found all these artifacts and all this stuff? So like there's a lot in there, and we're not done with it yet. There's a lot of ideas that we have that we're going to add as free DLC content to the game. So we're going to we're taking the Sea of Thieves route. We're going to keep going with it and keep adding it as long as we can.
The difference being between you and Sea of Thieves is it sounds like you have a lot of content for launch.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope it doesn't come out like a wet fart.
Oh yeah.
No more wet farts, especially
No
not from
more
your
wet
team.
farts. Hopefully there's enough girth in Airborne Kingdom.
Yeah,
I
you
hear
better
like a
hope so.
girthy and lengthy experience. Best of both worlds.
Speaking of girth, real quick, before we just start to wrap up here, in all the playtests that you've seen, how many city dicks have been made?
Well, you've made a few really long ones too. Yours are less girthy. Yours are pretty long.
Mine are very unbalanced.
Well, no, the good thing about a dick shape is it can be pretty balanced, right? Especially if you put a lot of weight on the base of it.
Mm-hmm.
The game kind of
giant propellers.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally. You can find a way to really balance it if you want. You can even put water condensers at the very tip of it to really like give it that feel.
A little spritz on the on the front.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
you had to ask, AJ.
I did. Anybody else have any questions about Airborne Kingdom or for my good friend Ben?
I know you said it's kind of open-ended in terms of Epic wanting to know when the game comes out, but I kind of want to know, do you have a target in terms of when the game's coming out, or more so it's going to bake until it's fully cooked?
So the real answer is that it's going to bake until it's fully cooked.
Awesome.
However, we're pretty close to the oven being done. So we have said that fall 2020 is our target, which kind of gives us a pretty open range of when we can really hit. But it's getting there. Like it's getting really close. You can play through the whole game. You can unlock all the buildings. I'm really working on heavily tweaking it and balancing it now, and so. It's close. It's been 2.5 years already. So I'm excited to get it out and then see what other people think about it.
Yeah, we're excited to see it.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I know Cozy just built a computer. Nathan just built a computer. Mitch is on the verge of building a computer, and
the plan is the fiance is going to gift me the parts for our wedding. So we'll see how that goes.
Nice.
And I am dangerously close to dropping $3,000 on a new PC again.
Crazy person.
So we should all be geared up by that time to play it. Hopefully, to play it well on like max full ultra settings, because the visual style of the game is. If you haven't seen it, go look up a trailer. It's something I haven't seen before in terms of artistic vision for the overall.
That's what we're going for, man. We just want people to say, "Hey, this is cool," and it's something I haven't seen before. So my heart grew 3 sizes today.
Aw, you're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement that I think that this game is going to be really interesting to look at and play on any of our PCs when it finally releases. However, I think that the real question right here that needs to be asked is there any opportunity of it ever coming to any PlayStation platform? And if so, how easy is the Platinum Trophy?
Damn it, Cozy.
I knew this was going to come up.
It always
does. A specific backdoor for your PSN username where you just have to hit X 4 times and you get everything, and you can make your score go higher.
See, I feel like that's too easy. You have to make me work for it a little bit.
But Cozy, it would be the new Konami code. It'd be the Cozy code.
Can I click a button 10,000 times and then get a Platinum Trophy?
Only an avatar.
Or my name is Mayo.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So in terms of console stuff, we're hoping, like I have a PlayStation 4 myself. I am planning on getting the next box, hopefully. So
Where are the prices? God damn it!
I know.
need to
Yeah,
know.
I don't know. It's gonna
Not
be
tomorrow.
Not tomorrow. That's for sure.
So yeah, so we're hopeful. We're definitely looking into it, but PC first because there are 4 of us and we need to put something out.
Of course.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
How do you think it would translate to a controller versus mouse and keyboard?
That's definitely the hardest part for sure. There are other games that have done it, which is nice. Like we can look at them. One of the best ones to come out recently was Frostpunk. That is a very good PC city builder. So if you're into that genre, I would highly recommend checking that one out. But that came out on consoles recently. City Skylines is out on consoles. Tropico is out on consoles. So there are examples of how to do it. And I think my time making SimCity for mobile will kind of translate a little bit to that too. There's the T-bar that we sort of coined back then, which I think works pretty well on console stuff back then. But no, the honest answer to that is we're not putting it out on console right away because that's the hard part. And we wouldn't want to put anything, again, like half-baked out on console either. So if we do it, we'll do it right. Or at least we'll do it right for us and hopefully for other people.
Awesome. Well,
and I think as we get closer to release, we'll be sure to talk about it more and more on this show, and look forward to seeing what you guys deliver come fall.
Cool, sweet. Yeah, I'm also happy to come back on whenever to just chat about that game or about Harvey's. It doesn't matter.
We can talk
for
both.
sure.
I'm always down to talk Canadian takeout food.
Video games, Harvey's, whatever alcohol we're drinking,
I didn't mention I am drinking a Fria Cerveza Especial from Amsterdam Brewery.
That
brewed with flaked corn and lime zest. It's good stuff.
Okay, that's an interesting. Well, I mean, no, it sounds like
it's almost like a Corona. Yeah, it's like a Mexican lager. It's really good.
Okay, good to know. Fair enough. And with that, I think we are going to call tonight's show to a close. Thank you, everybody, for joining us live on twitch.tv/YYZ. Cozy, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Alex Casina or on Twitch at twitch.tv/CozyBearLive. Right after this podcast records, I am actually going to be playing some more of Terminator Salvation on the PlayStation 3, which is a game I've been chipping out on for quite some time now because it's an easy platinum, but not so easy that I feel obliged to continue playing it like from a just straight playthrough. So I'm getting back to it, and we'll see how far I can get into it tonight.
Good luck with that. Mitch, where can people find you?
Twitter, Instagram, Mr. Mitch George. You can check out, I retweeted my Fun Time review that came out earlier today, and I've got at least a couple more in the pipeline that the next one's going to be a doozy, and we'll leave it at that.
Oh, you're going to love it.
I have words to say.
Of course you do. Nathan?
Follow me at _NMAC. I've got a review, as mentioned earlier, dropping tomorrow for a game I'm really excited to talk about, and it sucks I couldn't talk about it this episode. We'll talk about it next week, along with another game. But check out my Twitter tomorrow because I'll be posting the review there. So please be excited.
For those listening to the audio, it's already out, so go find Nathan on Twitter.
Yeah, and then tell me what a great job I did. That'd be great too.
Where can we find that review? PS4?
PS4blog.net.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ben, where can people find you?
You can find me personally at The Wandering Ben on Twitter. The company account is at A Wandering Band if you want to see like really cool screenshot Saturday GIFs and other news of what we're doing. We also have a Discord, which is the thing that we're the most active on. So if you actually want to just chat and talk the game, go to airbornekingdom.com. There's a link there on the Discord channel, and you can come chat with the devs and hang out.
Amazing. Well, with that, thank you so much for joining us, Ben. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I have been your host, AJ Fraser. You can find me all over the internet at Times Hero, capital T, capital H. That's Twitter, Instagram, and all that fun stuff. And with that, I think we are going to bid you adieu. Thanks for hanging out, and thanks for playing.